Hello everybody.
Hello everybody.
Long time no see. I forgot what you all look like.
We always say that after every video we do, but it is quite a long time this time.
It is a long time, yeah. Quite a few weeks.
I know.
With one thing and another happening locally, personally and everything. All good stuff.
Yeah.
But it just kept us very, very busy, and we've been trying to catch up with everything. So apologies for not making any videos, although we've wanted to. We've got so many subjects we want to cover that we've been champing at the bit. So we've had to take a day off work in order to do it, because we just wouldn't fit it in otherwise.
What we need is a lottery win so we can become multi-millionaires.
That'd be nice.
And then we can do this.
Because you can play that now.
Maybe we could have our own studio and everything, like jw.org. And stand there like robots. And no, anyway, I digress.
Do you know, when talking about the lottery, do you know my grandmother used to choose numbers and give them for my grandfather to put on the lottery every week. But because she wasn't actually buying the ticket, it was okay.
Oh, that's all right then. Yeah. That's okay.
She'd give the numbers, but she wouldn't actually buy the ticket. Yeah. I said she'd spend the money though if he did win.
Creator up there, he's anyway, okay with that. Yeah. He's okay with that. Right then. Well, that's got me giggling now. You'll have to. Right. Here we go. Now, what we want to talk about, this has got us thinking.
First of all, it was this magazine, okay? Yes. Our son's got a friend who's just started working at his local Tesco's, which is a supermarket here in England. And everyone in England will know that. And he's just started working there. And as he was on his shift, literally on Friday, he came home, came back because he was going to be spending the night here Saturday night. And he bought this with him and he said, I found this, look what I found behind the counter. And he picked up this magazine and he said, I was going to put it in the bin, and I thought, I know, I'll take it to those apostates round the corner. So he dropped it in with us, and do you know, Mark just had a flick through and he read an article and I just heard him laughing. I said, what's so funny? He said, you've got to read the end of this article. And I said, okay.
Drum roll, please. Anyway,
I'm no good at drum roll.
It's on page, it's the 2014, December 1st, Watchtower, the one they give to the general public, you know, and it's our readers ask, what are the facts about Christmas? Well, don't worry, we're not going to get into all of the details about pagans and the origins of Christmas.
And whether to celebrate or not to celebrate, that's not the issue.
It's a well-travelled path, the Christmas thing. Some people do, some people don't. It's
personal.
Not
it's a personal decision.
We'll leave that to where it belongs. Yeah. Anyway, on page 11, it's the last paragraph that really got me thinking, and then hence we said, no, we've got to start doing some videos on this, because this is just
there's too much information that's going past through our fingers that we need
water through your fingers. Yeah. Anyway, here it is, and I quote, this is all about the Christmas thing, but I'm only going to quote the last paragraph. After considering the above facts, millions of people have decided to abstain from celebrating Christmas. Instead, they find joy and true satisfaction in spending time with their friends and family, and here's the bit, and in helping the poor and needy whenever they wish throughout the year.
Do you? Do you?
Can I say that again?
Okay.
Spending time with their friends and family, and in helping the poor and needy whenever they wish throughout the year. I had to read it twice.
I might have this completely wrong. I don't think I have. As a Jehovah's Witness, born in, both of us, separate families, didn't know each other. Families knew of each other, but we didn't know each other. Both had the same answer to that. I don't remember ever going out and helping the poor in my community as a Jehovah's Witness. And if you think knocking on going from door to door is considered helping your community, that's not what's helping your community.
That's not
This is not the wording. It says helping the poor and the needy, which says to me that you are actively going out there and you are helping these poor these people with not a lot of money, and the needy, people who need help because they're unable to do things for themselves. There's nothing like that in the witnesses. No. There isn't. There really isn't.
And what they're implying here is that at Christmas time everybody starts thinking about the homeless and the needy. Well, it is a time when people's consciences are probably, because they're indulging themselves and going through all the lavish meals and everything, and it is a time where the charities make it and highlight it, because they're saying, hang on a minute, look at all of this lavish eating and celebrating. What about the poor and the needy?
Yeah.
And this is why it comes up at Christmas
Give a
time.
little bit
So,
extra this year
yeah.
to someone else who needs it.
Please, yeah, that type of thing.
Which is a good thing.
Now, there are lots of organisations, even in our own local town. You know, we've got the Trinity Church, we've got the Salvation Army, we've got the Open Door Project.
They've
that I
all
know
got soup kitchens and
Yeah.
things where they make up bags for the homeless.
all year round.
All year round. Not just at Christmas, but all year round. In fact, we had Vince and Donna come and stay with us last year, and on our way back from a restaurant meal we were walking home, and we bumped into some street pastors in our own hometown. And these street pastors are made up of elderly people. I think there was one that was in her 70s. I think the youngest was 58.
Most of them were in their mid-60s.
So people that are retired, possibly retired or near to retirement. And these people were carrying blankets, flip-flops, lollipops, plasters, water, and they would be out till 4 o'clock in the morning helping people who were coming out of nightclubs, the people that they found on the streets that were homeless, and be able to supply these things to these people in
that are
need
vulnerable.
and vulnerability side of things. Now, they do this all year round, not just certain times of the year. All year round they give of their time, their volunteering time. Now, you tell me where witnesses do stuff like that. They don't.
Well, it's a no-brainer. So this is why it got us thinking, because this is a complete lie.
It is a
at the
lie.
bottom of this page, an absolute deceiving, horrible lie. And it looks harmless at the end of the page there, that they help the poor and the needy whenever they wish throughout the year. They don't do that.
You may have one or two individuals that take it upon themselves to do that, but that's very, very rare and very
I've never heard of it.
unusual to have that in the
yeah.
organisation. It's not a generalised done thing, and if they do, they help other Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't help strangers or complete and utter strangers
In
they
fact,
don't know.
there are publications, if you do your research, and JW Faxon in particular have highlighted this thing about charities and their view of charities, and they've actually written articles actually frowning on how charities work, that they're out to con you, this type of thing. Anyway, I digress. Reason we mention that is because it's a total lie.
It is a lie.
An absolute
It's a
lie.
deceiving way they've done it in order to make it out that this goes on, when actually we know factually it doesn't. There you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that then led us on to looking at the article in the Watchtower. In the newspaper that came out last Sunday here in England, and we were waiting for it to come out because this story's been going on for a while now in London. It's in the courts at the moment, and we've not been able to say anything about it because there's been some kind of gagging clause over it, that the whole details for the whole case aren't allowed to come out, so they've had to be very careful. So only little bits are mentioned in the article in the newspaper.
This is the Sunday Times,
Yeah.
and this is dated the 1st of March.
And you've probably all seen the article on the internet now.
Yeah,
it's been
once
passed
again,
around.
it's done
but
the rounds.
We wanted to do this video last Sunday
one
when it
here.
first came out, but didn't get a chance.
Yeah,
Right.
Jehovah Church faces flood of sex abuse cases. Flood, not a
Flood.
trickle, a flood.
Now that's a newspaper. That's not written by an apostate.
No.
That's a newspaper article.
Nothing to
okay?
do with us.
No, but that has happened to have been attending courts and,
Yeah.
and talking to the people that are involved in the case.
Yeah.
Now, did you want to read some of that article out, or are you?
I think we should come up with this after we've listened
All
to
right, then.
this idiot.
Now,
All right.
go to AAWA Hour on YouTube and you'll see this entire video that's been put together regarding who is lying. Because Stephen Lett, one of the members of the governing body, got up and did a talk recently regarding lies. And again, they're trying to cast light that everybody who leaves the organisation are apostates, whether you leave of your own accord or whether you actually are kicked out or whatever, you are an apostate. So you're not allowed to talk about anything that's gone on. You kind of almost go into a gagging thing yourself, unless you are totally free and awake and don't mind talking about things and actually want to expose it, which is why Mark and I talk about what we do, because we don't want to live a lie. This is what we want people to realise, what goes on behind the Watchtower's closed doors. So go to Hour on YouTube and you'll see this whole video, but listen to what Stephen Lett says in his talk. Excuse me while I bite my fist.
Only a few seconds.
Pivot to the oneness, rejecting false stories that are designed to separate us from Jehovah's organization. As an example, think about the apostate-driven lies and dishonesties that Jehovah's organization is permissive toward pedophiles. I mean, that is ridiculous, isn't it? If anybody takes action against someone who would threaten our young ones and takes action to protect our young ones, it's Jehovah's organization. We reject outright such lies.
Can I ask a question? What action do you take? What action do you take? Simple question, simple answer, please. That's right. There is no answer to that, because the answer that you would have to give would be completely outrageously awful, because you don't do anything. You don't do anything.
We reject outright these lies. That's what Stephen Lett said. We. Now, when he's talking about, it mentions there in that speech, Jehovah's organization. Well, we know that Jehovah's organization, according to the publishers, is the Watchtower. That's the organization that runs everything. It runs the publications, it runs the way that judicial processes work, the service committees, the punishments, the disfellowshippings, everything goes through Watchtower. We know that. And here he is saying we, and I use that word in plural, we reject it outright. And he's saying that as a governing body member. Right, should we go on to something that's of interest?
Yes.
Going on about the lies, Mr. Lett? Mr. Lett, are you ready for this? Okay, this is one that's done the rounds a bit within the XJW community. It's a declaration by Gerrit Loesch.
Another governing body member.
Governing body member, yeah. In support of motion to quash order granting plaintiff's motion to compel deposition of Gerrit Loesch. Now, in here, I'm just going to read it in part, but this was out on February the 5th, 2014. And in part, this is what this guy said, Gerrit Loesch. Are you ready for this? He's been called and subpoenaed to talk about this on oath, his words,
in court.
And this is what he said. Now keep in mind what we've just been talking about. We reject outright. We, the governing body, our organisation protects children. We don't do these things. It's an outright lie. I quote Gerrit Loesch, I am not and never have been a corporate officer, director, managing agent, member or employee of Watchtower. I do not direct and have never directed the day-to-day operations of Watchtower. I do not answer to Watchtower. I do not have and never have had any authority as an individual to make or determine corporate policy for Watchtower or any department of Watchtower. Watchtower does not have and never has had any authority over me. And then he goes on to say, I have no personal knowledge of any facts or circumstances concerning the subject matter of this case because, among other things, I do not supervise or work for, and I have never supervised or worked for, the Watchtower Legal Department or the US Service Department. Wow. Okay, now remember, this is a governing body member. These are the people that are supposed to run everything. They'll say they're the ecclesia, the spiritual guidance for the whole organisation. But they use Watchtower, as we all know, as the vehicle to get everything done. And you have to admit and agree with everything that's in this book, the 104 questions, before you can become a legitimate baptized member
publisher
of the Watchtower organisation as a Jehovah's Witness. Because unless you submit to this, you can't be a Jehovah's Witness. And this is what it says in part from a governing body letter at the beginning of this book. General information is here published concerning the duties of elders and ministerial servants, judicial procedures, and various other features of congregation organisation. Details regarding these matters are reviewed from time to time in the Watchtower, Our Kingdom Ministry, and other publications of Jehovah's Witnesses. And yet we've just read
He's nothing to do with
Gerrit Loesch has nothing at all to do with Watchtower, and it has no influence over him. And he has nothing, he doesn't direct it. He has nothing to do with Watchtower. Now, he is speaking for the governing body when he says that.
Yeah.
When one says it, they all say it.
Because they're a body.
They're a body. So who the heck is Watchtower if the governing body have nothing to do with it?
No.
They're not influenced by it.
And they're not
directed.
influencing the legal department or anything. Now, when you have a paedophilia case or anything like that, an accusation of child abuse or anything like that in the Kingdom Halls, you go to the elders, and the elders are directed in their Shepherd the Flock book to go to the legal department of Watchtower for guidance on how to handle the matter.
Straight to legal
Now,
department.
so who's telling them how to handle these cases?
Yeah.
Who's guiding them? Because it's not spiritual guidance, then, is it? If these governing body members who are supposed to be feeding their flock the food at the proper time are not the ones giving this advice of what to do, spiritual advice, to these brothers that call when a case like that comes up in their congregation, but it's the legal department, you're treating it in a legal way, in the sense of you're not treating it and actually dealing with the situation. You're covering it over. How's the best way to cover it over? You don't want to give any spiritual guidance when it comes to that. It just gets completely squashed.
So they've denied Watchtower exists, basically, by that. They're saying they have nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do with Watchtower. Now, we all know that that's a total lie, a total farce, because they want you, as a publisher, to be subservient to Watchtower. And yet, at the same time, they're saying, it's nothing to do with us. So, you can't have it both ways, can you, Jehovah's Witnesses? So, the reason we mention it is because this guy, Stephen Lett, is making out that we as an organisation protect our children. And we are well up within our organisation to look after our children. This is just lies. It's all apostate-driven lies. His words, not mine, his. We go on to this Sunday Times, 1st to the 3rd.
Last Sunday.
2015. Jehovah Church faces flood of sex abuse cases. I'm going to read just the first paragraph. A woman who was abused from the age of 4 by a senior officer of the Jehovah's Witnesses has lodged a £500,000 claim for compensation in a test case that could open the door to hundreds more suits involving members of the religious organisation in the UK.
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
Not one or two. Hundreds.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Now, this particular article has had as I've mentioned, like a gagging order, so all the details aren't allowed to have been published. But they felt it strong enough to actually publish what they could and what they were allowed to.
What the judge was allowed to publish,
Yeah, what they were allowed to put in the newspaper. Now, so there's more details to come out about this, but there are active witnesses involved with this at the moment.
Yeah, and there are many more cases waiting in the wings. It says here that the abuse, which included alleged rape, continued for 5 years until Abigail was 9 and took place in her home. His home. In a shed. And in cars, the court was told. Now, one of the things that Watchtower does very, very carefully, and we've got a lot of experience on this from our own workings to try and expose this rancid mess, is that they will always claim that they do not work with children. Therefore, they're, in the UK, they don't come under the disclosure barring service because we don't work with children in Sunday schools, creches, etc., etc.
Yeah.
It's very clear here that elders do work with children. They
and
put them in their cars.
All of you witnesses know that too. Yeah. That if a brother says, "Oh, can I work with little Billy today?" or "Can I work with little Sarah?" they will, and they'll go off with this elder, and they'll go and do ministry. In fact, it's a well-known fact that happens. But they will say they don't work directly with children. Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. All the time.
Yes, you do.
Another lie. So here it is. Let's just have that as evidence. There it is in the broadsheet, the Sunday Times, making it very clear there could be potentially hundreds of cases that follow on from this test case because they're all waiting in the wings. It's very disproportionate to the amount of publishers we have in this country. When you think we have 100,000 publishers in the country? We have, what is it now, 30, 40 convicted paedophiles in the last 4 years. Those are the convicted ones.
If you go onto the OWL website, so aawa.co, on the front you'll see a map.
Yeah.
And on that map is little about of all of the convicted JWs. Just the convicted ones. We're not talking about the ones that are getting away with it still, have got away with it,
iceberg.
And that people who have been abused probably leave the religion when they're older and never speak of it because they're trained and they're mentally told, they absorb this thing of you mustn't talk about it, you're going to bring reproach upon Jehovah's name, so they carry this with them their entire rest of their life. And it's like with Candice Conti, she didn't say anything about the abuse because they did when she was a child, and it all got squashed, all the letters got filed, her case got put in a filing cabinet and left. So when all of this, when she was older and realised that somebody else had also been a victim after her abuse, another child was abused, she felt compelled to come forward and speak up.
And this is what it's about. It's complete concealment.
Yeah.
We know all of this stuff now, and the world is waking up to it. The reason we're mentioning this is because Stephen Lett, we've just mentioned him, he's lying about the fact that the organisation looks after children. It's a total blatant lie. We all know that. The world now knows it. And it's becoming more and more exposed. Gerrit Loesch, another individual on the governing body, is crawling on his belly to get away from a court case, so he doesn't have to admit to anything.
And we even know that in Australia, when the case was in the courts with Stephen Unthank
in Victoria,
he had to defend the fact that the governing body exists because they blatantly said in court that the governing body doesn't exist.
So
amongst and in front of a load of witnesses in the
and then he said
galley.
that the witnesses don't exist. So they'll do whatever they need to do to lie in court
to get out of it,
and
they call it theocratic warfare. So they're allowed to lie.
It's legitimate
because it's a warfare that's going on.
So that's what we've tried to bring out today, is that if we're going to talk about
who's lying,
Stephen Lett, you can call us liars as much as you want, but all we've done today is actually quote from the Sunday Times and quote from the Watchtower that this is a blatant lie on everything you come out with now. It's total rubbish. And we would ask that those that are secretly watching this video in the future, because it's now going to go on archive, to please think very carefully and start using some critical thinking about who this organisation is.
We have nothing to hide. We have nothing to hide. We would not make things up of such a horrendous thing.
No.
This is just exposing what they are covering up. What they are trying to make out are apostate lies, when actually it's because they're being found out, they have to come up with something quickly.
Yeah.
And do you know, when they go on, they've been going on and on for years about the Catholic Church. Oh, it's full of paedophilia, it's full of this, how dare you, da da da. Do you know, the Pope actually, the new Pope actually apologised.
As we all know.
As we do,
Yeah.
about everything that's going on, and that they recognise there's a huge
They
issue.
have a major
and they're dealing
problem
with it.
in the Catholic
But you know,
Church.
the witnesses, I wonder if one of those governing body members will ever be one of the ones to say, we now admit there
Have
is a
the
problem.
courage to say and be honest for a change and say, looks like we've got a problem. Oh yes, you do.
Why is it you think that they don't want to admit to it? It's because they want you to have this overall beautiful look of the organisation that somehow it's clean, it's a whitewashed grave.
Spiritual paradise.
When it starts to, when you peel back that whitewash over that grave, it's full of dead man's bones and disgusting things.
Yes, it is.
And you are that whitewashed grave.
You are a bunch of liars, governing body. We all know it.
And we will not keep quiet.
No, we
And
won't.
we will not be shot down and shut up.
No.
We will be speaking from the rooftops about
There are
this.
too many now coming forward, and we're so grateful. We're very proud of the people that we know in the UK alone that are now putting their hands up and saying, I am a survivor of abuse within this organisation. And it takes a great deal of courage for them and their families to stand up and say, we're not taking this from you anymore.
Yeah.
We're not putting up with your lies anymore.
They've refused to be victims.
And they are, some of them now are roaring lions, and we commend them all, and we're so proud of knowing these people. And you know, you can't make that out, governing body. You can't ever look at that stuff, at these people, and say that they're liars, because guess what? They're coming for you. They're going through the courts now, and there's many more that I'm sure, and their families, that will be looking at the cases going through and thinking, we're going to do the same.
And you know why? Because truths may have, lies have speed, but truth has endurance.
Yeah.
And the endurance of the truth will eventually overpower every single lie that you want to say. It's only a matter of time. Time is your biggest enemy.
Yeah.
And it's catching you up fast.
Without a doubt. Thank you for listening to us.
Yep.
And we're...
But hopefully do another video.
Yes.
If we get time.
Yes. Maybe a couple more. Who knows?
We'll see.
Yeah. Thanks for
Anyway,
listening.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.